Hey, brothers and sisters, thanks for joining. I just came across another story. Normally, I would wait a few days before posting this one and see how this works out, but I like this so much, I decided I had to do it. Should be a quick one. We will see. So the new story, and I took this off of CNN Business, and I'll link the story later so you guys can see it if you're interested. But Trump set to sign executive order after debanking. What is that about? Uh, President Donald Trump is expected to sign an executive order Thursday that would punish banks for restricting service to customers based on their political or religious beliefs, formalizing debanking protections that conservatives and crypto industry advocates have been pushing for. So yeah, if I remember right, Trump has actually said, I don't know if it's true or not, but he has said that he was debanked. After January 6th, several big banks that he had done business with for years, and I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I want to say like Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase both said, hey, we don't want your money anymore. Please take your money out and go somewhere else. And we're talking tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. He was a good customer for many, many, many years, and they didn't like the regulatory risk. And I've seen it reported that a few bankers, and don't mind the cat, he's decided to come hang out. A few big bankers said, yeah, we got huge push from the Biden administration to debank him after the January 6th stuff. So I don't like that. Like, you should not be debanking someone for their political beliefs. Because, and I think I saw it happen in New York first. New York decided to push to debank like the NRA. And so liberal governments have been pushing to debank citizens for political views, which I would call, just their opinions or free speech. Canada did it for people that gave money to the truck drivers during the truck driver strikes, or even the lawyers, I think, that worked with the truck drivers. So I just think that's wrong. So I'm all for this, and that you should not be able to debank anyone based on their political beliefs, basically. As long as you're doing something legal, your bank should just do business with you. What's the problem? Now, if it's illegal, okay. And normally I would say, hey, capitalism, banks should be able to do business with whoever they want. Yes, fair enough. But the problem is banks are regulated. And so the government does control the banks somewhat. And so this isn't a completely capitalistic kind of thing. And the banks need to be controlled, because if not, then lots of people have lost their money in the past. So when banks have failed, so the government does have an interest in regulating banks already, and so I'm all for this. All right, so the order directs the federal banking regulators to remove the reputational risk language from their guidance to lending institutions, a broad concept that crypto and other businesses say led mainstream lenders to ice them out. It also instructs regulators to review banks' past or current policies, encouraging politicized or unlawful debanking, according to a senior White House official. Hey, I'm all for an investigation. Let's get the Department of Justice to investigate banks and see if they debanked people for political views. And my guess is they didn't do very many that were liberal, and it was mostly conservatives. But that's my guess. But let's have an investigation and find out. And if somebody did anything criminal, let's prosecute. So debanking is an umbrella term for when a bank rejects a customer, which can happen for any number of reasons. Americans don't have a legal right to a bank account, and lenders often turn away people or businesses to comply with a mountain of rules and regulations designed to protect the federal financial system. Yeah, so you've got to balance protecting the system, because we don't want the bank to fail and then the taxpayer to have to bail it out. I get that. We want a stable system, but they're using these laws in a way that I would say is actually illegal, and definitely immoral and wrong. If you just because you don't like somebody's political point of view, you go out there and you push a bank to to debank somebody. Biden administration officials telling Bank of America, we're going to come down hard on you if you keep doing business with Trump, as an example. Now Trump has claimed that. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard him claim that. And I believe it. Remember, these are the same people during COVID that were banning anyone who said anything bad about COVID. The Biden administration does not have a good kind of free speech track record. So let's see what else we got here. Debanking has long caused problems for undocumented people and poor Americans who often have to resort to unregulated payday lenders with much higher interest rates to make ends meet. Now, undocumented people I don't care about. Okay, let me be clear there. If you're undocumented, you shouldn't be in the country. You don't need a bank account. Let's kick you out of the country. But if you're in the country legally, everyone should be able to get a bank account. But I do get the banks have to protect their assets from criminals. Like you don't want to do business with the mob and be laundering the mob's money. That's right. I agree with that. You don't want to be given loans that are so risky that they could put you out of business. So yeah, you do have to. Risk management is a thing in banks, but knock it out, guys. You need to stop it based on normal mainstream political beliefs. You just shouldn't be able to do that. But more recently, the term has been used by conservative groups that claim they are victims of left-wing value system that's taken root across corporate America. Yep, fully agree. I can cite examples. Major banks have repeatedly denied accusations that they have systematically targeted conservative groups, but in recent weeks, many have responded by saying they welcome the president's efforts to scale back banking regulations. Yeah, if I'm a bank, I would want less regulation, actually. Still, Trump has doubled down on these perceived injustices and even claimed this week to have been a victim of debanking himself. Yeah, I've heard him say it several times. On Tuesday, Trump accused J.P. Morgan Chase. Yeah, it's the story that I was referring to. On Tuesday, Trump accused J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America of rejecting his business after his first term ended. The banks discriminated against me very badly. I was very good to the banks. The president told CNBC. A J.P. Morgan spokesperson on Tuesday reiterated the bank's statement that it doesn't close accounts for political reasons, but said it agrees with President Trump that regulatory change is desperately needed. Yeah, of course. These guys are all weasels, right? Oh, and politicians are all weasels too, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Trump, Biden, Harris, Obama, they're all weasels. Yeah, they didn't close his accounts for political reasons. They closed it because it was too risky to keep because he was an insurrectionist. Guys, that's political reason. He was never convicted of insurrection. No matter how much the left wants to tell you that, find me a conviction for insurrection. Find me one and link it, and then we can talk about it. It never happened. A Bank of America spokesman declined to comment on Trump's allegation, but CEO Brian Moynihan also praised Trump for addressing the regulations in place, telling CNBC in an interview the president's on the right issue. So I don't know if this is the same CEO of the bank that debanked Trump, 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe it's a new CEO. But basically, remember there have been insiders in the bank saying the Biden administration pressured them to do it. Within the banking industry, several people told CNN that they disagree with Trump's claim about debanking conservatives, but are willing to accept the outcome if it helps get regulators off their backs. Well, to be fair, they got no choice but accept the outcome. I mean, if the regulators go and do this, then it'll be something that's based on the law. They can fight it in court, but it's not a fight they're likely to win, or they've got to get the law changed. So really, they've got no choice but to accept it with the current Congress, I'm thinking. Now, maybe they could change it in the future. But again, if I'm a banker, I want less regulations, not more, wherever possible, because that's how I am. I want less laws, less regulation, less of all that. Banks are not closing accounts for political reason, one bank insider said, but Trump's right that regulators historically have been relentless to get us to close accounts by using the reputational risk concept. Because that's legal. They can say, oh, it's because of reputational risk. It has nothing to do with politics. Bullshit. It's because of politics. So, yep, I said it. Another source said it's nuts. We don't say we aren't going to bank conservatives. No, you don't say that, but it just seems like it's more conservatives than liberals and progressives that have been debanked. Or that's my perception. Maybe that's the bubble I live in. Tell me if that's so. This is this is maybe not the direct path we would have hoped to get to regulatory reform, but we'll take it, the banking source said. Banks are hoping the regulators will give them more leeway to let customers know why their accounts are being closed, which isn't possible under current regulatory guidance. So see, that's BS. We need a new, what I'm calling for now is Trump's going to do this executive order. But remember, executive orders only last while the president's in power, and executive orders, the Trump haters are going to be out there saying that these executive orders are him being an autocrat and a king and all that. No, that's not how the system works. Executive orders have to function within the existing law. They basically clarify or set priorities for federal agencies in the executive branch on how to apply the law that's already there. And if people don't like that, they can go to the courts and ask for relief. The courts are there to call the balls and strikes, right? This happens all the time. This is the normal process that all presidents do. Now, to get it to be permanent, Trump does need to get Congress to write new legislation. And so what you do is you write up this executive action, and then you go to the Congress and ask Congress to codify this into a law, and then Trump will try to get this made permanent. And I hope he does. Again, I normally would have waited a little bit to see exactly what the order said, but I thought I'd get out a little bit ahead of it. And looks like we're expected to see the executive order this afternoon, and then I think the activists will all go crazy about it after the order actually comes out. But again, I'm all for this. And I would say the same thing to liberals. When conservatives are in power, I don't want conservatives debanking liberals either. So I want to get that in there before my detractors say, "Oh, I'm just saying this because I'm MAGA." No, and it depends on what you mean by MAGA, by the way. I want to make America great again. 100% agree with that sentiment. America is the greatest country in the world, but it could be greater. And I'm all for that. But I'm not a crazy, rabid Trump supporter that everything Trump does is right. No, there's lots of better choices than Trump out there. Problem is, Democrats only gave us one choice, and her name was Harris, or his name was Biden before Harris. They didn't do a real primary. They didn't give us a real choice. And so you reap what you sow. How bad does your candidate have to be that Trump beat them? Anyway, I'm digressing. But anyway, if you like, subscribe. If you didn't like, don't watch me, because like South Park said, this probably shouldn't be watched by anybody. Talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.